Okay, so I'm trying to see, should we do an unboxing first? Hi everyone, welcome back to another Snacks from My Past video. And last time we made a Hong Kong style rice pudding cup that was very reminiscent of my past. But this time I wanted to do a recipe that I think a lot of people remember from their past, and that is Pocky sticks, specifically green tea Pocky sticks. And I remember these were probably one of my favorite snacks, like on our, I would say, weekly trip to the Asian grocery store. These would be the first snacks that I would grab. And we're really lucky to have SEEIN Matcha as our sponsors today. They are a Korean-based company that makes amazing quality matcha, but at affordable prices. And you can make everything from your lattes all the way to your various green tea desserts. They have their matchas in various sizes, so you can pick the matcha that's right for you. And they also have new packaging for their ceremonial tea matcha, which we'll be making afterwards as well. And I think what you'll all find with the SEEIN matcha is that the taste and the aroma, as well as that like deep, rich green color, is going to be as good, if not better, than some of your more expensive Japanese matcha brands. So we're really happy to have them on board, and I will put links down in the description as to how you guys can get that. Okay, so let's get started in making this because I am very excited. But before that, I wanted to show you, oh boy, how many versions I made of Pocky before I could get to the right one. And actually it was very interesting because I saw a lot of recipes online, and a lot of them treated the Pocky sticks more as sweet cookie biscuits. And the thing is, if you go to the store and you try one of these, when you snap it and when it breaks, it actually snaps very much like a breadstick or a pretzel stick. And so in the recipe that I've chosen, you'll see that there isn't really a lot of butter to it because there shouldn't be. And so it's more of like a bread-like texture. All right, so I think what I'll do is I'll talk through each of the ingredients. So to start off with, I measured out the flour because sometimes when you do it by like cups or when you do it by spoons or whatnot, it's not exactly accurate. The recipe that I tried and that I liked the most was obviously Claire's from Bon Appetit. I think it was a little bit vanilla heavy for me, so I kind of switched around that and I kind of veganized that recipe. But essentially she had a mix of rice flour and wheat flour, and I think the reason was because the rice flour and the wheat flour gave like a better crunch and a better snap to the biscuit, and in some ways it makes the dough a little bit shorter, but also crispier as well, and a little bit less bready because it's kind of a mix of a breadstick with a cookie. I moved all of my ingredients over to jars like this so that it would be prettier for you all. But I went to a play. Maybe it wasn't recently. I say recently a lot. I went to a play where I kind of forgot. It was the lady from the IT crowd, and she started off, the play started off with her putting all of her ingredients into jars, and that was because she wanted to turn her household back into the 1950s. And everybody was kind of like laughing at that. It was kind of like a weird, like, what is she doing? And then I was like, oh my gosh, that is exactly what I do. So this recipe has a mix of normal sugar and then also brown sugar as well. I'm not packing the brown sugar too tightly because while the recipe does need some sugar, as I have found out, because I tried to take out a lot of it, it does need actually some for the flavor because the biscuit is vaguely sweet, but sugar also adds a nice snap. It adds a different type of texture to the mixture as well. Where did my baking powder go? I tested out a couple of recipes that either use baking powder or yeast, because in the original Pocky or in the original Pretz, if you look in the back of their ingredients list, it says it's a yeasted dough. It's like a bread dough. But I think what I found with yeast was that the rise wasn't homogeneous. When you bake it, you're going to get sticks that are quite lumpy, and I found that to be very unpredictable and very not nice. The flavor, to me, there wasn't really an issue in terms of flavor, but in terms of kind of texture and getting like a nice smooth stick, that was much more easily accomplished when you just added in baking powder. So that's it for the dry mix right now, and then we're gonna move on to the wet. You want about a tablespoon of melted butter. This is just so soft that I'd just rather not, it doesn't need to be melted. 2 3/4 teaspoons of a non-dairy milk. So that is up to you. I think a lot of people treat baking like it's a science, but the thing is, at the end of, making this dough, you're still gonna have to see whether it's, environmental factors. Is it a little too dry? Is it a little too wet? Was I heavy-handed there? So it's not a complete science. You still need to understand the feel and the touch of the dough for it to work. 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And that was one of the things that I felt like on Bon Appetit, that recipe, it was just so vanilla heavy. So now you just want to mix it together until it's like nice and homogenized. So you can see I'm just trying to get it to a flaky state. As time goes on, it actually softens up just a bit. So I'm just gonna knead it for a couple of minutes, just until it gets smooth. Okay, so it gets actually quite a bit smoother like that. And then I'm just gonna let the dough rest because it just gives it time to hydrate, relax a little bit so that we can roll it out. So I'm just gonna set it aside. I'm gonna put a cover on it, and then we'll just come back to this in about 30 minutes. So I'm just trying to get it to the rectangular shape that I want. See how we've rolled it. It's a couple millimeters. It's actually not too thick. And once again, when you bake it, this is going to puff up. So you actually want it a little bit smaller than you think it will be. So you just want to go ahead and cut some thin strips. See, I'm rolling out the dough with kind of my fingers right here. And as I'm rolling it, I'm stretching it out. And if you had done this with the shortbread dough or like a more buttery dough, it would just snap because there's not enough of a gluten structure there so that you could stretch the dough. Okay, so this we can save. And then, so this is the width of the dough. It's a little bit smaller, but it will puff up in the oven just a little bit. So how you lay them is how they're going to bake. So if you lay them straighter, that is how they will stay. I mean, sometimes it's just good to leave them a little bit so that they have a chance to relax, and then that way they don't contract when you cut them. Okay, so for the dip, to make it vegan, because usually it's kind of like white chocolate with a bit of green tea, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix cacao butter, which is just butter from chocolate. There's no dairy in it or anything. I'm going to mix that with the culinary SEEIN matcha. So the culinary one you can use and it's better for like baking and mixing with other things. Whereas with the ceremonial matcha, you just really mix it with water and it's meant to be drank. And then I'm gonna put some powdered sugar in just to sweeten it as much as I like. The thing with cacao butter though is that although it is vegan, it tastes of chocolate, it is really thin because it's like pure fat. So when you melt it, it can get quite thin. That's going to be what's good about putting in some powdered sugar, is that the powdered sugar also has some starch in it. It should kind of help it firm up a little bit, but you're gonna have to play around with temperature, get it to the right consistency and the right thickness before you start dipping in your little Pocky sticks. A tablespoon first. I think you can't really see how green it is once it gets into the cocoa butter though, but it's once it solidifies again that you can kind of see it. So now I'm just gonna go a little bit at a time. Okay, so I found a bit of a larger bottle, which was what I needed. And depending on how runny, thick or thin your chocolate is, you might have to wait a little bit for this. So I just turn it over so that the chocolate can run back down.